And it's a
Wow.
traditional form that's used in Taiwanese mourning rituals. And I kind of used that as a departure point for reimagining, what a space of enlightenment might feel like.
Welcome to What's My Thesis. I'm Javier Proenza, and today my guest is Flora Kao. How you doing, Flora?
Great.
Tell me, I know you through an installation that you did at Barnsdall Art Park, which I'll pick that name because every time you talk about it, there's like 7 different names, no? But what's it called? So you had that show, and it was installation. But like, how do you identify as an artist? Like, are you a painter?
Yeah.
Painting is the main.
No, I actually studied painting when I was in school at Otis, but I quickly expanded into installation art by my senior year. And that's what I get the most excited about, like filling a space and creating an experience that elicits a sense of wonder or delight or reflection. And at Barnsdall, at the LA Municipal Art Gallery this past summer, I was able to realize a large-scale installation of 756 Origami Lotus.
Did you fold all of those?
Yes, I did.
Oh my God.
It's 10,000 petals. Each lotus is 18 petals, and it's a traditional form that's used in Taiwanese mourning rituals. And I kind of used that as a departure point for reimagining, what a space of enlightenment might feel like.
Okay, so
Yeah.
all right. Let's start from the beginning of like how you got into art and all of that, which is like kind of what I like to do. But I wanted to get a sense of like what kind of work you make because I've seen some of it, but it's always good to know how people identify. All right, so I like to say like, what was the first memory that you had as a kid of like making art, where like you look back on it and it's like it makes sense that I ended up here, and then did you have a moment where you finally had to accept that you were an artist? You know, in the sense of like, okay, I can't just like ignore this. I have to do this to kind of feel good, and like if not, like it's a very the artist way framing.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean?
So as a child, I was the oldest child, and my parents were in grad school trying to, get their thesis and dissertations done. So they encouraged me to just sit still, draw, and read. And one of my earliest memories is folding origami houses, actually, and like decorating them with like the chimney and the flowers in the front.
Are you a California girl?
I actually grew up mostly in Houston, Texas.
Okay, all right.
Although at the time when my parents were in grad school, that was in Wisconsin. Yeah.
Okay. So you lived in 2 different places. What you're saying? You lived in Houston
and more later on.
Where else? So what did your parents end up doing? I'm a third culture kid. Is that what we're talking about here?
Well,
or was it all in America?
I actually did move back and forth. So after Houston, my family moved back to Taipei after Taiwan became democratic. So
when was that?
In the early 90s, my family moved back.
And that's when it became democratic?
Yeah, increasingly democratic.
What was it before?
It was under martial law previously. And
for how long?
For several decades. Yeah.
Wow. I'd really... Hollywood has skewed my idea of what martial law is, but I don't really know what that necessarily means. Right. But it sounds significant. Like, how did that? What is like living under martial law? Like, there's no police force and there's no reigning government. That's how it's framed in movies.
Well, I think there's a extreme police force, actually.
Okay.
And there's certainly political repression, lack of freedom of speech during martial law period. So my father actually came to the U.S. and was studying and criticized the Taiwanese government, and he was put on a blacklist, so he couldn't go back, which is how we ended up living in Texas for so long. So my parents ended up getting jobs.
So he was just supposed to be studying in school here?
Yeah.
And he was going to go back?
I think he was hoping to go back to teach as a professor, but that ended up being something he was only able to achieve after martial law was repealed and Taiwan became democratic. So after Chiang Kai-shek's son passed away, Taiwan became increasingly democratic. They got rid of the blacklist, and it's probably the most vibrant democracy in Asia right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. I sometimes I wonder if we're a democracy. So that word is like such a, it's kind of like, it's like any word that you say a lot. Do you ever sit and just say one word over and over again, and it's just like, what does that even mean anymore?
Yes,
drawer.
for sure.
Drawer is the one that I did that when I was a kid, and it stuck with me. And I still don't know if I know what that word means anymore. Like drawer. But okay, so then when did it become a thing that you needed to study instead of just being a thing that was like, because everybody does art when they're a kid, right? I guess the whole framing of the question is like, why didn't you stop drawing or stop doing art stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I was always, the student who was asked to make the posters for school clubs. So I always had an artistic bent, but my parents really did not want me to take art classes the older I got, even though, initially in elementary school, they signed me up for drawing and painting. And I think for many Chinese families, like, you want your child to be sufficiently skilled and talented, but not so talented that they actually want to pursue that art as a profession.
No, I know.
Yeah. So I was discouraged from taking art classes once I got into college. So I studied environmental science and public policy as a happy medium.
Okay.
Which was like
How close
somewhat
is that
acceptable.
To art? I think that you're giving.
I mean, it was like mildly scientific, right? There was some science.
But it has no art. I think you just it's not a happy medium. You kind of had to give in.
Well, I mean, I realize now that I'm still studying the landscape, but in a visual way now. So it's definitely something I'm interested in, like our human relationship to the environment and to architecture. Yeah, but I actually worked in strategy consulting for several years after I finished college, and it was horrible.
Strategy consulting sounds like the word drawer to me. It means about the same. What does that mean?
Well, I was chained to a cubicle working, like 60 hours is a good week, usually like 80-hour work weeks. And it was just not sustainable. And I think my parents could see how unhappy I was. But also, I was now financially independent of them, and I could start making my own decisions independent of, so you
their
did
wishes. Graduate. This is not a story where you changed track in college.
No, I changed tracks later. I took a 180. So after 3 years in consulting, I decided I needed to make beauty a bigger part of my life. And
I'm picturing like Joe versus the volcano level cubicles.
Yeah. And I decided to apply to art school. Or I wanted to pursue something like work in a gallery or at a museum, and everything required a BFA. So I decided to apply to BFA programs, and I ended up attending Otis.
Okay.
So it was kind of like serendipity that I ended up even at Otis, because I didn't learn how to drive until I moved to LA, and that was like the closest place I could go to school and not have to get on the freeway. But
where were you living before you came to go to school?
In Boston.
In Boston,
yeah.
Okay.
Great public transport there.
So once you were with your parents at Taiwan until
just until I finished high school.
High school,
yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so they're still in Taiwan now.
All right,
yeah.
And you earlier referenced your family as Chinese. I don't want to.
They're from Taiwan, so they're actually Taiwanese, but Chinese heritage.
Okay,
yeah.
all right. I just wanted to get because there's There's confusion for Westerners there.
There's a lot of nuance.
Yeah.
And it's definitely hard to, capture all the nuances.
Yeah. That's not necessarily why you're here. But okay, so then when you talk about beauty and you talk about these, obviously you've experienced a lot of, it sounds like America mostly. And I mean, you spent some time in Taipei, but you've been in opposite ends, some might even say like Boston versus Houston politically. I would imagine like they're not necessarily too aligned, but probably are, in some other ways as well. But it just seems like you got a good, and then Wisconsin as well, right? So that's like you've seen parts of America that I haven't. Yeah, like I've never been to any of those places.
Oh yeah.
So it's interesting to meet someone that which do you like the best, or where did you feel like you could flourish the most?
I mean,
which would you go back to live in?
I mean, I've lived in LA the longest now, so LA is my home. And
but let's say there's no LA. Let's say it just disappears and evaporates into. Well, that got too real because there are fires here. But let's just say you lose interest in LA. Where would you feel like you could go back and kind of vibe?
I mean, I really love Taipei, and there's this amazing expat scene there.
Okay.
My problem would be that I'm not particularly fluent in Mandarin, so I would need to overcome my personal hurdle of being like semi-illiterate,
Yeah, and then you're
so it would be
outsider.
a lot of work
to
move to Taipei. But yeah, there's amazing food there. It's very cosmopolitan.
I thought you were gonna say Boston.
I love Boston too, but it's kind of small.
And it's cold as shit.
Yes. I've come to the conclusion that if I want to see snow, I can just go visit.
Yeah. And you're in LA. It's not that far. Mm-hmm. You can always go pretty close. Well, okay. Tell me a little bit about then, because like America-wise, Boston has its stereotypes. Houston has its stereotypes, but these are the places you kind of lived in as an adult, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So at what point does the art come in? Boston was, but I'm guessing Boston is where you did the environmental stuff, and then you went to Houston. So I'm guessing Houston has more of like a liberating feeling for you.
Oh no, actually Houston is childhood. Yeah.
Oh, Houston is childhood. Okay.
So it was like suburbia anywhere.
Okay. So Houston is before. Oh, sorry. Right. So then you weren't an adult in Houston. Interesting. So then that's why you've slotted into LA life so easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, because those are opposite kind of cities. So then, where does the cultural impact of the Lotus and all of that come from when you're in school? Where did you go? Well, Otis is over here in California. So when you start working all this stuff, these cultural signifiers, like the lotus flower, and I mean that is like an insane amount of work. Like when does that start to show itself visually in your practice? Because was there always a drawing practice, like a painting practice when you were younger?
I mean, I didn't really start making paintings and drawings until I got into art school, to be honest.
Okay. What did you apply with?
You can do a 6-week program at the MFA Boston to build a portfolio. So, so I did that. And I took like adult ed painting classes. So I had a few paintings, like oils and watercolors from those classes. Probably mid-20s when I applied.
That's not that old.
Yeah.
But I guess you only had that other career for 3 years.
Yeah. And initially, I didn't really want to dwell on Asian heritage or be pigeonholed as an Asian American artist. So I think initially my work was very much focused on inserting organic forms into generic architectural spaces and more uh, more intellectual in a way. And
academic
over
discourse.
The years, I've begun to embrace my Taiwanese heritage and like explore my relationship with my family heritage and kind of the cultural nuances of changing landscapes, as opposed to just the environmental aspect.
Do you feel why the initial resistance? Because some people do have resistance to that, some people don't. Is there did you feel a certain way maybe because of the background of like being in an office, or because
I think
were teachers telling you to do it and then you were like, fuck no?
No, I mean, I did a couple projects that were more personal, but I think it's also part of like discovering your heritage and your background is also part of the process of growing up and becoming an independent critical thinker. And so it was just like me catching up to my experiences in a way in my art making.
No, I find it interesting because I've never there's a huge political and diasporic movement behind my heritage, but I also have I've never made the turn to go back into that, I think mostly because I have spent so much distance from that cultural experience. If I would feel like a fraud, but I've never even been to Cuba, so to make art about Cuba, although but it's just an interesting thing, like that sense of it sounds like you were trying to find your identity and you didn't want to maybe it was more about the work being too personal to tackle when you were first starting out.
I think ultimately a lot of my art ends up being art therapy for myself. So initially a lot of my art was like therapy from being trapped in corporate America.
I can relate.
Yeah.
That's what my early work was about too.
Yeah. So once I processed all that emotion, then I was older and experiencing more loss of people I loved and able to start reflecting on those losses and incorporating that into my art. And because, a lot of those people I've lost are relatives, my family history becomes more and more of an intimate conversation in my art. Yeah.
No, and it's interesting how as you get older, your relationship to your family changes. It does. It just evolves, and you've seen people go. There's a period where you're vulnerable to them because they know everything about you. But then, as you get older, that stops to be so present, and
there's more space.
There's more space, and there's whatever, we're not going to be here forever, so these things matter less and less, which I think is an interesting tie into what you were saying. So then what are the things I'll say, I guess obviously the lotus is the motif. Repetition is a technique that you use. What are some of the you said reflect. What do you want? What kind of things are you looking to have people reflect on when you're even with that particular piece? Obviously, the installation of it is intense. That's the first thing I asked you about it, because they're all floating on fishing wire, and you said that you had a scissor lift.
Yes, luckily. Yeah, 14-foot ceiling, so the scissor lift was very helpful.
Yeah. So then what are we working with thematically? And then maybe even talk about some of the other work that I haven't seen with motifs and stuff like that. Because I think I don't even know Asian culture enough to like really know who has ownership over the lotus flower, but my experience is never, I don't, I mean, I imagine everybody, right? Like, I guess everybody I don't think I've ever seen a lotus flower.
Oh,
Are there any in California?
Yeah.
Where?
There's a lotus festival.
But do they just like grow out in the wild here?
No,
it's like an orchid. I can't
remember which lake, if it's Silver Lake or Echo Park Lake, but there's definitely a lotus festival you can go to. It's annual.
Cool. I think the first step is to like Google what one actually, because it's in reference to so many different things, right? Like meditating on the lotus and all of that.
So it's a Buddhist symbol.
Okay. Is that big in Taipei?
Yeah. So my dad's side is very devoutly Buddhist. The lotus represents enlightenment because each day it rises from the murky mud in this pure and perfect form. And then each night it returns. So, so the lotus symbol is used to, reference enlightenment and resilience, and in the Taiwanese mourning tradition,
mourning as in grief.
Okay. When a loved one passes away, the family actually folds 108 origami lotus each week for 7 weeks using a special paper with a heavenly print. And each
What's
week,
the heavenly print?
It's kind of like a mandala, with like different patterns and designs, Buddhist symbols, and each week for 7 weeks, those 108 lotus are burned and sent to the afterlife, symbolically. And there's a belief that there's 108 hurdles to be overcome in the path to enlightenment. So in folding all of these auspicious symbols and sending them to the afterlife, you're helping your loved one hopefully achieve a higher state, overcome the hurdles. And then on the 49th day at the end of the 7 weeks, the body's cremated and it's also covered in these origami lotus. So it's like a very intense experience, but it's also a way for the family members to remember their loved one, to share stories as they fold together. And it's kind of like a cathartic process to burn them and, see the ash disappear and like send a wish,
I think there's also a level, I mean, just as an outsider, just like relinquishing something that you've put so much time into building, like as artists, we don't burn our shit that we put hours of labor into, but there's something ritualistic and meaningful in that process, I guess, in relation to grieving.
Of letting go.
Yeah. That's interesting. And also just a way to keep your mind busy when you don't necessarily, like I've recently grieved somebody and it was like I just had a hollow hole and I still had to do stuff, and then just keeping busy, like doing the podcast and stuff like that is super helpful.
It becomes a meditative practice. So I think a lot of the installations I make are like somewhat obsessive compulsive, but also meditative. And it's a way of processing loss and transforming grief into beauty.
So then tell me about some other pieces that you've worked on, because installation is hard to encapsulate like photographically, but I find descriptively it's easier than a painting, because I think there's a lot more conceptual basis to installation, right? Like by nature, you're disrupting the space, but you're not making sculpture and all of that. So, with the one at Barnsdall, how many did you say? You said you did 800?
Oh, 756.
756.
So it's 108 times 7. So it's the number of lotus that are folded during that mourning period.
Okay, so wait, you do 108, how many?
108 for 7 weeks. Yeah.
But each day?
Each week for 7 weeks, the family is folding 108. But obviously for me to fold that many lotus, it took me a couple years.
Okay. So 107 per week.
108.
108 per week. Okay. All right. Now I'm getting a better sense. All right. And then tell me a little bit more about like what was that a specific reference to somebody that passed away? How personal does that get?
Yeah. So when my paternal grandfather passed away, that's when I became aware of this ritual, actually, in the funeral rituals for him. And so I explored.
So you guys did it for him?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I kind of explored this mourning practice in multiple projects, focusing on the Origami Lotus. I have video footage and photographs of the lotus being burned for his funeral, and also kind of adopting that for this large-scale installation. Mm-hmm. And all the lotus are like a sacred Buddhist yellow that symbolizes the sun and enlightenment. And when my grandfather returned for hospice from the ICU, his deathbed was actually draped in this brilliant yellow.
Okay.
And when my grandmother passed away, maybe 6 months after him, I created a new installation using bamboo and tying on like prayer leaves onto the bamboo. So the leaves were actually salvaged silk scraps in, assortment of sacred Buddhist colors, like the colors you see monks wear.
So what like oranges and stuff?
Yeah, like autumn colors.
Autumn colors. Okay.
And I recently installed that at the Ontario Museum of Art and History. So,
here in California, not in Canada.
Here in California. Okay. Driving distance. Long drive.
I was like, damn.
So that was like 30 bamboo trees, and there's bamboo leaves on the ground, and then there's like the fluttering prayer leaves. So
what is a prayer leaf? That's not a natural leaf. It sounds like
it's a silk ribbon. Okay. So I don't know if you've seen, like in Little Tokyo, there's a corner where people tie on a fabric and make a wish. So it's like a Japanese ritual, like the Tanabata festival. So it's kind of a departure from that tradition, and it's actually common in multiple cultures. So this idea of tying something to a branch and making a wish for health was used at kind of like healing wells and bodies of water in Britain and in Ireland, and in various parts of South America. Wishes are made with thread or fabric. Yeah.
Well, we have also the sandimas, which is like when you lose something, you tie a knot to sandimas so that you can find it, and then when you find it, you undo the knot.
Oh, nice.
And I every time I lose something, my mom's like, sandimas. And by the way, for people that are watching and keeping track, I confirmed with my mom, it's not just that she thinks that she's worried about the hygiene of finding Santeria objects out and not touching those because of that. She's also like scared of fucking with a hoodoo. So it's funny how those little things like affect you, right?
Yeah.
So your parents are devout Buddhists. Were you brought up as a Buddhist? Do you still practice?
Their families are Buddhists, but my parents living in the U.S. were not necessarily practicing anything.
Yeah.
They were like pretty agnostic, I would say. But now
that I'm a Catholic.
Yeah. Now that we're back in Taiwan, of course, they're participating in all the family rituals. But kind of growing up as this island across the ocean, I didn't really know that much about the family traditions and cultural practices.
I mean, to be fair, it does sound like there is a very Western approach to, like, postmodern approach to some of the installation stuff, right? Like the materiality is relevant. And did you have any particular people that you looked at that you were like, okay, these are... I recently saw Mark Maron a clip saying, "Who are your guys? Who are you guys?
Yeah.
Who are your were your influences? Because it sounds like especially while you were at school, since you weren't necessarily at a place where you were dealing with work that's so personal. Like what were you looking at that kind of took you from painting into the more more like, I say that as somebody who also got wrapped up in a lot. I also have done a lot of installation work. I kind of think of solo shows as installations anyway, which I think is kind of how it is anyway. So tell me a little bit about that and how that became embedded in your work. Who were you?
I mean, I'm very inspired by Tara Donovan and Vic Muniz.
What kind of work do they make?
Tara Donovan does these incredible installations. So I actually was able to see one of her shows at Ace Gallery when I was in art school, and she had kind of like these geologic appearing installations that were made from like layers of tar paper, I want to say.
What's tar paper? Is it like
roofing paper?
Okay.
All
right.
Like, and they were like built up into these forms. So that really made a deep impact on me.
Do you know Jackie Castillo?
No.
Okay, I'll show you some of her work when we're done. But I just interviewed her recently. But I think that it's interesting. I think that she also has that. Not that your work looks anything like it, but the cultural application to... She's Mexican, and she does a lot of stuff that's related to labor and whatnot. And so she'll have like bricks that have photographs printed on them in an interesting configuration and stuff like that. I'm obviously not explaining it as best as I could. She had one at the ICALA where it's like she has these ceiling tiles as they're falling, but like they're frozen in time. So it's like the movement of the tile as it falls down and hits the ground. But the materiality of it, going back to that postmodern element of the work, is deeply relevant to like the messaging, right? Which I think... I don't know. I think that is pretty much, from my understanding, is pretty much a Western. I think talking to Anne, she was kind of telling me that there was no perspective drawing. Like 1 point perspective was not, and that blew my fucking mind. and I from talking to her, my impression is that a lot of the Chinese in particular, because that's her experience, are tended to be academic and like traditional ink on paper. She said that it's also very... I don't want to say something and be wrong, but it was like it's very masculine tradition, right? Like of black and white and stuff like that. So I just think that that's an interesting way that you can kind of merge both of your life experiences into maybe something that is like uniquely yours, as opposed to trying to... I've heard people say that like when their gallerists will be like, you need to make work that's more Latino. And for someone that doesn't do that, but still thinks that being Latino is a selling point, that's like, not something that I can vibe with. But do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about that experience and that education, because I mean, it does seem to be like the modality in which you're most inspired by, as opposed to like drawing, which to me, honestly, is so immediate that it kind of takes precedent over installation.
I mean, when I make my installations, I'm thinking about mark making in space. So
Yeah,
for
yeah,
me, installation is drawing.
yeah, yeah.
And, you know, like when I was in my BFA program and my MFA program, I think we were encouraged to really um, focus on kind of the conceptual ramifications
Hmm.
of what we proposed. I had like really incredible advisors that were very inspiring and encouraging, and I think it was such a privilege to be able to focus on making my own work, discovering my voice for 3 years in grad school.
Oh, that's right. It is a 3 year.
Yeah. So I did my MFA at UC Irvine.
Oh, so you've got 3 degrees.
I do. Yeah. Overeducated.
Wow. So okay, then like what are your ambitions in the art space? Like where does the career go from here? What are we like trying to accomplish? I know you just had a can I say it? You just had a studio visit with Anne.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like probably one of the bigger champions for Asian art out here. I would say maybe Sung Hee is also pretty active in trying to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
I was like surprised at how, from interacting with Asians in the community out here, like that it's not a huge, that you guys are not as far, have not been as embraced as Latinos have in the last 5 years. That there's not that much of a scene, for, according to Sung Hee, from what I've heard. Do you feel that, or is that changing?
I mean, I've worked with Sung Hee and she's doing really interesting curatorial projects.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I heard maybe the Getty PST show will be, incorporating more of, the Asian perspective coming
Yeah.
up. Um, like personally, when I'm thinking about making my work, I don't necessarily think of myself as, an Asian American artist. I'm just thinking about work that is meaningful to myself and to my audience. So I'm interested in creating experiences that, hopefully will inspire, a pause and amplified awareness of one's body and space and one's relationship to the environment or to cultural history or social space, geography. Um, yeah, so
Do you see yourself moving away at some point from the cultural signifiers like the lotus and the bamboo?
I mean, I'm totally still mining, you know, Taiwanese and also Asian American historic archives. I'm currently preparing for a show at the LA Center of Photography in Little Tokyo that highlights historical photographs from the pre-World War II period. So, like photographs from over 100 years ago of that area and making cyanotypes with those images overlaid with Japanese embroidery patterns. And that actually, I had two other large installations in the Municipal Art Gallery show that kind of employed that technique using images from my family archive. So, uh, 4 generations of uh, Gao and Li families and Chen families. And then also photographs from Taipei in the 1910s when it was under Japanese colonial rule. So I'm definitely still mining those areas, and yeah, it's very exciting to go into archives and just be like looking for cool images to work with.
No, and it's cool to just learn about that.
Oh, yeah, the learning process.
I imagine you're probably not getting too much exposure to too much history of a Taipei history from here, right? You'd kind of have to go there to get it's like going to Rome versus like hearing about it. You know? Yeah. So then where do you look like are you, what's the ambition? I mean, because with installation, it's difficult to necessarily make. I mean, it can be done. I'm not discouraging you from trying, but the more commercial spaces, I guess I don't even really know how. Because I'll put it this way. I know how Cristo does his stuff, right? Like he does the wrappings and all of that. All that big scale things he does by selling small wrappings and stuff like that, right? So, but I don't know, like, I mean, I guess it's just interesting how. So, where are you looking? Because obviously, Anne is like commercial, but you're also showing in these like more. And it's okay if you don't want to talk about this business side of stuff, but I always find it interesting. We don't have to talk numbers, but like, is part of your strategy trying to get into more commercial spaces with this kind of work?
I mean,
I know
the installations are definitely not a money-making venture.
But I mean, I was gonna also say, I know Bert Rodriguez. One time I went to one of his shows at a commercial space, and he was basically cooking Cuban food for everybody and then signing plates for people. And that was it. And he didn't sell anything. I'm guessing the gallery got a grant or something. So I'm just saying, I'm not doom and glooming this. I'm just, if you have any ideas, share them.
I mean, I'm trying to figure out how to make it work. So I am actually trying to make small stuff too. That's a goal of mine. Like, so the cyanotypes are kind of a breakthrough for me because they're small and accessible. They fit in people's, domestic settings.
Yeah.
I did realize that the work that I have sold is all, stuff that can fit over a couch or in an office. So I should maybe try to make some of that.
This is not a critique. I am not criticizing you about that. I'm just interested. I'm actually kind of just like, what did Anne say? What did her? Because she's good at business. She's like a smart person,
Yeah. So for the installations, definitely, just trying to network and, try to meet people with access to large spaces so that I can continue to make the large scale work that I get really excited about. But yeah, on the money side of things, I think I gotta focus on making smaller things and also teaching.
Yeah. So that's an interest of yours, teaching art?
Yeah.
Are you doing that right now?
Right now, I am not, but I do have experience teaching undergrads at UCI after grad school, and also mentoring at Otis College in their liberal arts department. I was like the visiting artist, so I would come in for like a third of the semester and offer, the artist's perspective on their projects. Nice. So that was very fun and inspiring.
So you do like teaching?
Yeah.
That's a fun thing for you. Okay, cool. No, it's interesting how people go about continuing and sustaining their practice, I'm still learning about how it works, so I can't even say that I know anything about like the commercial side. But through these interviews, I'm learning a little bit about how the business works. But yeah, I also I've talked to Pranay Reddy, who runs LA Art Core. It's interesting to just talk to all these spaces that, that are like municipal projects. I talked to the guy that, Paul Loya, who has done both. He's done the commercial side. He ran Paul Loya Gallery, and then he also runs the museum in Long Beach. So what's interesting about the breakdown of those things is that art can have commercial value. It can also have educational value, right? So you can try to do both, and I think that that's probably the best way to go about it, right?
Yeah.
But you're getting a lot of shows. How is that happening? Is that just through sheer networking? Are there applications that you're doing for?
Yeah, I mean, for the Barnstable show, that's a City of LA grant that you can apply for.
Okay.
And you have the opportunity to show your work at that amazing gallery.
Yeah.
If you win that grant. So it was each year they sponsor 8 to 10 artists.
And that's their yearly calendar?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know.
It's not their yearly calendar, but it's like a summer show for the recipients of that grant. So they are showing other fabulous, amazing shows during the rest of the year.
Okay. So it's anyway, I have follow-ups, but you're not the manager of that place, so I'll leave that there. But and then have you gotten any shows just through sheer networking?
Networking? I mean,
I'm getting the sense that you're probably gonna show up in a Poco show at some point.
Yes, I just met with Anne, so hopefully in December we'll be working together.
Oh, December?
Yeah.
That woman has a show every month, and then this coming month she has 2 shows on the same day in 2 different cities, and I'm like, what are you doing? That's insane.
She has a lot of energy. It's really great. Energy and vision. That's what we need in our curators.
No. I that's not a criticism. I'm like, you're making me feel bad. Every time I see her, I'm like, the only person busier than me.
In terms of networking, I'm a member of the LA Artist Association, a longtime member. So I joined right when I finished my BFA program, and I have met an incredible network of artists and also gallerists and curators through their juried shows. So
you just attend them and you meet the people there?
Yeah. So you apply to be a member. It's like $250, probably now it's $300 a year to join, and then you can, once you're a member, you can apply to their juried shows. And I met really terrific gallerists who were invited to jury shows just by applying through Gallery 825. That's their the name, the other name of the LA Artist Association, the gallery name. I met Elizabeth East from LA Louvre, and, we did a studio visit and stayed in touch. And, 10 years later, she, saw my latest email blast and invited me to be part of a show she was curating at LA Louvre. And it was really, really such a great experience. And it's all trying to maintain connections over the years, and
10 years, that's a nice turnaround, right?
No, and it's happened multiple times where it's people that I reached out to and tried to stay in touch with, when I was fresh out of school and had the energy to go to all the openings.
They know you're still around. They've seen your work ethic.
Over time, opportunities arise. Yeah, so I was able to work with James Panazzo at LA Launch Gallery. He's also someone I met through the LA Artist Association, a decade ago.
You're the first person to mess. I had never even heard of that. That sounds awesome. That sounds really helpful. What do you give, you've been at it for a while, it sounds like, right? You said 10 years you've been at least.
Yeah, no, it's more than 10 years.
Oh, well, I'm trying not to.
It's about 15 years since I graduated.
Since you graduated?
The MFA program, I think.
Well, what can you give people that haven't been in the scene that long advice on? What do you think? How has it changed? What have you learned? How have you changed?
Yeah, so I think the key thing is to never give up. Don't get discouraged and keep reapplying. The whole Origami Lotus idea, I shopped around to multiple places over the past 5 years probably.
How do you communicate what you're trying to do when it's not that when you need a space to show it? Did you install it somewhere?
Small steps. So showing like a small version and then having images from that and saying, what about this times 7, you know? And for me, like, even though, you know, I may not have been accepted to something I applied to, the next time I apply with that idea, it's better, you know, it's like more solid, it's more developed and stronger. So I think that tenacity is key to thriving as an artist.
Have you had give up moments?
You know, I juggle being a mom of 2 kids, and so
how old are they?
They're about 9 and 12 now.
So you've been at it for a while.
It's kind of like going, I mean, I described it as a black hole earlier. You know, it's like kind of like a time warp, you know, where I don't have full control over my time. I can only work in these like piecemeal, fragmented chunks of time. And it's definitely challenging. And it's hard to focus.
Yeah.
And get that application in time.
And you're probably also tired too.
Yeah. I think it's hard to make space to have the mind space and mindset to create sometimes, because, you know, the demands of daily life get in the way. But like, I guess also being disciplined and carving out that time is a key to succeeding.
How do you think the hustle has changed you? That I'm interested in, like, and by that I mean, like, for example, I think I used to be a lot more skeptical of people. Right. And I think that was because I was meeting people that didn't have anything to do with the art world. Actually, they were just part of a art community, but not embedded within the broader art community. And I think that as I've gotten more into doing this, I've gotten a better sense of how people are. Like, I can pick up on cues on people about who's serious and who's kind of maybe just like wants to get on the show, you know, and like who or somebody who is like really friendly to me but doesn't really like me, you know, like you know what I'm talking about, like people that like you because they like the idea of you but they don't give a shit, you know, and things like that. I used to be a lot less patient with people, you know, especially doing the show. Like, I've gotten a better handle on that. It's like, how has doing this and this work of, like, not the art practice. Obviously, everybody's got the art practice, but you're getting some pretty visible shows and opportunities, right? How have you evolved to fit into a situation where you get yourself more opportunities? What have you let go of?
Yeah, so I think as a young artist, I definitely had imposter syndrome where I felt like I wasn't good enough. My work wasn't good enough. I'm an introvert, so it's like hard for me to socialize and go to openings and like meet new people. It definitely stretched me as a person. And as I've gotten older, I've become more confident in my own work and my own practice, and you know, been able to kind of you know, more fully develop my voice. And I think sincerity matters a lot, you know, in
it didn't used to?
No,
you were a little bit more guarded?
I think just being able to you know, speak to new people and to learn their stories has been like really such a rewarding part of my installation work. So I'm sharing my own story, but also opening myself up to listening to the stories that others bring, that my work inspires in them. So I really appreciate those moments of personal exchange where people are telling me about maybe their losses and what my work reminds them of from their childhood. Like that is so
It's definitely
meaningful to me. And I think finding your own community and building your own community is also so important. So I met really wonderful group of artists that all kind of started at a similar time at the LA Artist Association. And I still stay in touch with them. And, you know, when I do make it out to an opening, it's so great to see them. Sometimes they ask me to be part of a show. So like, you know, cultivating and maintaining friendships and relationships is definitely critical. Yeah.
No, I definitely agree with that. But it's also interesting throughout this conversation, just the idea of like you know, how hard it is to be an installation artist. Like it's almost like every time you're doing a show, you're almost the amount of space that you need to claim is an interesting like the work is really it's got to be good and it's got to be evocative for people to want to invest in it, right? So it's just an interesting point in the conversation, just how you manage to accomplish that, because it is an undertaking to be like, hey, let's show this work, you know. And I appreciate you breaking down sort of like how the barn style breaks down, you know. It's interesting to have expertise of people, you know, like it's easy to ask artists that have been in galleries and are commercially successful how they accomplish that, but that's almost got a set path to it, you know. I think the undertakings that you're doing are rare, that somebody, like, it takes a lot of effort to like get these things together, I'm sure, you know. Because you can't just be like, oh, like for example at Charlie James, the number of artists that I know that were in a group show, sold a piece, and then had a studio visit and then had a solo show, like that's a pipeline. You know, and like that's not a criticism on that. I love that, and I'm proud that exists for those guys. You know, it's great. But I think that you're doing something that's a little bit like the grant writing and all of that. That's like that's a discipline that I think a lot of artists overlook as well. You know, like artists aren't taught how to get shows in school. They're taught how to. So this conversation is really interesting for how you go about pursuing your interests. You know, I almost feel like it's like easier now that you're with Anne, because like she's trying to sell the stuff. So if she sees value in it in that sense, I think that's an interesting different place that you're in. Or unless you've done like, have you shown at commercial spaces?
Not really.
Yeah. No, but
nonprofits usually.
Yeah, nonprofits. Yeah, I mean, and you can make a whole career doing that and live off of that. You know, that's what I find interesting. It seems like you're open to both, but the amount of labor that it takes to accomplish what you've already accomplished in these spaces, to get the work seen, to get, you know, have people written about this stuff.
Yeah. I mean,
those are all the things that commercial artists want as well. You know, so you're getting them done, but you're doing it without the support of a gallery. You're doing it entirely by yourself. You know, like I had a gallerist or a art advisor who advises. She's the go-between between the galleries and the people that want to buy the stuff. And I forgot why I was bringing her up, but she, like, basically the idea of, oh no, I remember that, like, when you sign with a gallery, that's a partnership. You're business partners now, and they help you. They're there to serve you. A lot of people don't understand that going into it and don't really set up the agreement with the gallery, right? But ideally, And a lot of galleries will try to like put you on their roster without telling you. And then you're like, wait, what? You just appear on their website. But this is all you. This is like, you don't have a gallery promoting you. You don't have people creating value for you. This is just, you are applying to stuff. Like, it's a completely different monster. It's really impressive. I think that I spend a lot of time highlighting commercial spaces and artists, you know, now more than I used to, because I have access to that. But I still think there's like, it's incredibly impressive to like, you know, over a 10-year period, get to the point you are. I mean, bravo, congratulations. It's like, it really is fucking impressive. I don't want artists that are listening to this to like miss that point, that like when an artist has a gallery, the gallery in theory is pushing them, and you're just pushing yourself, and you got kids. I mean, that's really fucking, that's a lot of fucking work. I mean, I'm making you uncomfortable by complimenting you too much.
No, I mean, it's just about, not giving up.
Yeah. So if all the advice you just gave, you should probably listen to, because because it's like, you know, and I think that it's important that you said the imposter syndrome thing, you know, because it's like, you kind of have to believe in yourself at that point. That show looked so massive and so beautiful. I wish I had gotten to see it in person. It was only one day after I met you. I met you and the show was closing. But yeah, no. Everybody should check out your stuff. Where can people find you?
So I'm on Instagram, Flora Kao Art, FLORAKAOART. I'm on Facebook. I have a blog spot that features some of my older work. I think it's Flora T Kao, so blogspot.com/Flora T Kao. And
what's your middle name? T.
Well, so it's Ting Ting, but it's not my official middle name. It's just another name I have. From my Chinese name.
All right.
Like a nickname from childhood. And I will be in a show that's opening at the LA Center of Photography the Saturday before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
I think that's November 22nd, but I'm not sure about it. But it'll be, I'll be doing Origami Lotus folding workshop there for their family workshop. And I will be, actually, I think it's origami butterflies, because I will be making
is like hard, no?
a butterfly installation for that show, as well as working with the archival photographs of 1920s Little Tokyo. And then I have a show up right now at the Experimentally Structured Museum of Art. So it's 108 Origami Lotus in some of the photographs of the Lotus in Flames. That is down in Lawndale.
Okay.
Alexandra Grant and a lot of other incredible artists are also in the show. It's curated by Brenda Williams, and that will be on until February. Mm-hmm. And I will be doing a lotus making workshop with them January 21st, I believe. Saturday art workshop. Yeah.
Cool. And well, thank you so much for doing the show. I really appreciate your perspective, and I appreciate the advice at the end, because I think that there's too much mystery on that shit, and I think you probably learned all of that just from doing it.
Yeah.
No one was like, here's how you do it, right? So thank you for doing that for other people on the show. That's really helpful. I appreciate that. And then if you guys enjoyed this conversation, like and subscribe, comment down below for engagement purposes. We want to get bigger so that the guests we have a bigger audience to be exposed to. So help us do that. And also, I want to be bigger too. I'm not going to just put it on the guests. It's for the guests. And then if you want to be on our Patreon scroll and get early access to episodes, Patreon /What's My Thesis. Patreon.com/What's My Thesis. You can join for $5 a month. Gets you all those perks and probably more coming as we grow and more opportunity arises. Thank you so much to the people that have joined, though. We've been getting to the point where it's kind of hard to keep track of everybody, but that's a good thing. And we'll be back next week with another guest and another topic that may or may not be art related.